Hey everyone, welcome to Craving Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Well, it is opening weekend for Scream 5, and I'm so pumped to see how well it is doing so far in the box office. It's projected to finish the holiday weekend at around $36 million in the US and Canada, which is fantastic. Now, if you have not yet seen the movie, you need to get your tickets now. And if you have already seen it, get your tickets and see it again. That's what I did. I just finished my second viewing of the movie, and I picked up more things the second time around. So go back, watch it a second or even a third time as soon as you can. Now, in this video, I'm going to give you my spoiler-free review of Scream 5 and share my thoughts on what I liked the most and what I liked the least. Let's hit it. Scream 2022, or to call it what it really is, Scream 5, is the first Scream film since Scream 4 in 2011. This also marks the first Scream film without the master himself, Wes Craven, who sadly passed away in 2015, and the first to be made by Paramount Studios and Spyglass Entertainment. Now, on to the creative team for Scream 5. This film is directed by Tyler Gillett and Matt Bettinelli-Olpin, otherwise known as Radio Silence, and their most recent work was the 2019 film Ready or Not, and they previously directed segments in VHS and Southbound and were executive producers of VHS 94. Now, while the directors may be new to the Scream franchise, we have some familiar names in the producer chairs. We see the return of Kevin Williamson, who this go-around is an executive producer, along with franchise alum Kathy Conrad and Marianne Maddalena, who worked closely with Wes Craven as producers of the previous 4 Scream films. The film was written by Guy Busick and James Vanderbilt, but Kevin Williamson also served as a script consultant. Now, moving on to the cast, we have the OG3 all coming back: Neve Campbell, David Arquette, and Courtney Cox. And also Marley Shelton is back to reprise her role as Judy Hicks from Scream 4. In addition to the legacy cast, Scream 5 features an ensemble cast led by Melissa Barrera, Jack Quaid, Jenna Ortega, Jasmine Savoy Brown, and others. Now let's get into this movie. So the premise of Scream 5 is that the film opens with Ghostface making their on-screen return back in Woodsboro, as we see the iconic costume being worn by a new killer, and this time they are attacking Tara, being played by Jenna Ortega, who is the sister of Sam, who is played by Melissa Barrera. This attack prompts Sam, who now lives in Modesto, California, to return to Woodsboro to be there with her sister. But of course, Ghostface isn't just starting. He has lots more to do, and as more people get attacked and the body count rises, Sam decides to lead the charge to find out who is behind Tara's attack, and recruits our favorite sheriff, Dewey Riley, to help out. Now, this leads to more mayhem and carnage until the queen of all media, Gale Weathers, shows up on the scene, and ultimately the queen of Scream herself and the ultimate final girl, Sidney Prescott, also comes to help bring this killer to their end. So that is the premise of the film. Now I want to get into some positives and some negatives. And again, this is a spoiler-free review, so there's not a lot of meat on the bones here, guys. It's going to be a skeleton, but I'm going to give you my overview, and I will be doing a lot of spoiler videos starting later this coming week. I want opening weekend to get through, and through that Monday, and then starting Tuesday, we will get into spoiler videos and breaking down scenes and all kinds of great stuff. So I have lots of stuff in store for you. But for this video, it's going to be spoiler-free for those who still have not seen the movie and don't want to have actual specifics ruined for them. So let's get into what I feel are my positives of the movie right now. And I want to start with the OG3. David Arquette's performance is outstanding in this film. I felt he stole the show and it was one of my favorite performances of the entire movie, and maybe one of my favorite performances of his for the entire franchise. That's a lot to say, but it was really, really good. And Sidney and Gale were also fabulous in the limited time they had in the movie, but I would have really liked to have seen them be in the film a little longer, and especially seen more from Sidney. But what they did have, they did a great job. It was really good. I just wish the writers had given some more time for them, though. I just do. I just wish that Gale and Sidney would have had more time in the story, and we could have gotten so much more from them. But again, the OG3 are still a huge positive for me. And I also have to mention how much of an amazing job Roger L. Jackson did as the iconic voice of Ghostface. This was one of my most favorite Ghostface vocal performances of the franchise. No doubt about it. It was so well done. He just killed it. And I mean, all of them are well done. It's not like there's a bad one, but this one, you'll see when you see the movie. To me, it was one of his best. It really stood out, had a little bit of a different feel and tone to kind of mirror the new feel and tone of this film altogether. Now, another positive for me was most of the new cast. For the new crew, I did really enjoy their performances as well. There's not a new character that I thought did a bad job. There's not one. But I will say some were definitely more enjoyable to me than others. And there were a couple that I wish would have just had a little bit more of a dynamic to the personality of those characters. Like, there was just a couple that I said, I wish they just would have made them, written that character to be a little more this way or that way. I won't reveal, but just more dynamics. And when we talk spoilers in these future videos, I will go into more specifics on what I mean. I'll tell you exactly who and what I mean I would like to have seen, so it's coming. But if I had to rank my most favorite performances of a new character, it would be Jack Quaid, who plays Richie, who just knocked his role out of the park. I thought he was absolutely amazing. Again, may be the strongest of all the new cast members, possibly. Also, Jenna Ortega, I thought was great. I did enjoy Melissa Barrera as Sam. I thought she did a great job as well. And Jasmine Savoy Brown, who plays Mindy, I thought she was great. I did really enjoy her character as well. And those round out as probably my top 4 most favorite newcomers to Scream 5. Now, my next positive was the brutality of Ghostface and his kills. This is a very brutal Ghostface, and let me tell you, the kills in this movie reflect it. There are a couple of really memorable kills in this movie that will always be standout scenes for me, and I suspect many of you probably as well. Whenever we get to talk into spoilers on future videos. Now, overall, there is an aggressiveness to how this version of Ghostface stabs their victims, which is done in a different manner than we have seen before. And oftentimes, when I was watching the film in the 2 times that I've seen it, the word savage came to my mind in several of these scenes, and it was just a very brutal savagery. And I thought Radio Silence did a great job with direction and how they, took it into the special effects realm with the practical effects. And I just think they did a great job in how the looks of these kills were done and executed. I think it paid off big time. Now, another positive that I liked was the incorporation of the past with the present. Okay, now, without giving any spoilers, I'm just going to say that we are reminded of the past in a very vivid way throughout this film, and I personally really enjoyed how it was done, both on screen and off screen. Now, I know some folks are complaining about it, but I am not one of them. I appreciated it, and I really thought it was a cool concept to do. So I think it's a positive of the movie for me. Now, the next positive I have is the musical score. I was a bit apprehensive about how the score would be in this film without Marco Beltrami writing the music. However, I have to say that I was very pleased with all the music in this movie, and I'm really happy that we heard 3 iconic Scream songs in the film. We hear the return of Dewey's theme from Scream 2, which is personally my most favorite version of the Dewey's theme, the Dewey song. And we also hear the return of Sydney's theme when she walks into Stu's house for the first time in Scream 5. And it was great to hear that. It felt very much like I was back in the older films again. And we also hear the iconic Red Right Hand played at what ended up being a very appropriate time in the movie. So it was really great hearing all of these 3 return. Just awesome how much the music can take you back, to the scenes in the films of the past. And it was great to hear them in this new one as well. Now, next up would be the overall story. And what I mean by that is specifically Sam's story and the way they have set things up for future films. I love who Sam is. And for those of you who've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. They give us the amount of details that we needed to know for this movie, but they left out enough details to have us guessing about what is to come next. And I think that things could get really interesting moving forward. And when it comes to the OG3, I'm also pleased that while some things, they did not go the way I wanted them to, overall, considering all that happened with the OG3 in this movie, the way things end with their stories left me satisfied. But albeit not necessarily pleased. Does that make sense? I hope it does. All right, now my final positive for this video is the pace of the film. Now, it's a fast-moving 1 hour and 54 minutes. If you be careful, don't blink or you'll miss it. And now the argument can be made that it would have been great to add another 15 minutes, 20 minutes to the runtime, and I would have been fine with that. In fact, I believe the first initial runtime was like 2 hours and 27 minutes. I do kind of wish we could have seen that version because the pace is very quick and it keeps moving now. And let me say this, you will not going to be bored. I promise you will not be bored. Radio Silence keeps the story going quickly at a quick pace when you watch it. So, and let's keep in mind that Wes Craven had as near to perfect pacing in his films, I think, that you'll ever see. So while this does not mirror Wes's pacing, it is still very good. And when comparing it to the pace of Ready or Not, when you watch that movie, I think it just reflects their filmmaking style as directors. They're very much in line. This is very much in line with Ready or Not's pace, in my opinion. So it is quick moving. They keep the story going. And so there's pros and cons to that. But I do say that it was a positive. It was almost 2 hours, and I felt like it was 20 minutes. So that's a good sign. All right. So my feelings about Scream 5 is overwhelmingly positive for an overall view. I really only have 2 negatives that I will discuss in this video. Keep in mind that once this thing hits Paramount Plus at the end of February, I will be binge watching it multiple times. And so after 10 to 15 viewings, I will probably have some new thoughts about this movie, and some of my perspectives might change a little bit from the way they are now, after only having seen it twice. But just after 2 viewings, this is just how I feel right now. So just keep that in mind. But these 2 negatives I have about the movie, the first one is kind of the other side of the pacing coin, which is I wish there was more character development. And the downside to making a transitional movie, let's say, or a requel in this case, is that in order to properly care for the characters of the past, you have to reduce the time you have to develop the characters of the present. Because if you're only going to have 2 hours or hour and 54 minutes to work with, you have to divide that time up. So while it was not terrible, There are unfortunately some new characters that we did not really get to know very well at all in this movie. Now, thankfully for the surviving characters, we did get a little bit more time with them, but the movie would have, it would have had to have been 3 hours probably to vet these characters out properly, because there was so much story to tell, both with the new characters and the OG3. So I wish we would have had some more development of at least the surviving cast, but I do fully expect that to happen in Scream 6, as the story will likely, and I'm not saying positively here, but I'm just saying likely, shift away now from Sidney Prescott and, in from the past, but not completely from the past. So we're going to have to just see how they do it. But again, I went in kind of expecting this to probably be an issue, because you can't develop these characters fully and also care for the established characters at the same time. It's going to have to be shorter for everybody, and that's kind of what it ended up being to me. And then finally, my last negative I'm going to put in for this review was the reveal. Now, I missed the way Ghostface was revealed in Scream 2, 3, and 4. In these films, we get to have at least one of those Ghostface killers reveal their identity in full costume by taking off their mask. And I'm a huge fan of seeing the mask come off to find out who the killer is at the last minute, and if I was right or not on my guess. That's just a big thing that I enjoy. Now, this movie more closely follows how Wes Craven filmed Scream 96, and thus the reveal in Scream 5 is not done in costume. Now, I loved the reveal of Scream 96 because of the way it was written and executed. I just love it. However, beginning with Scream 2, Wes had at least one of the killer reveals in those movies be in the costume. So I was hoping that we would have seen that continue here in Scream 5. So while I did still like the reveal, I didn't hate it, I just would have loved it had it been in costume, right? That's just a personal preference. I was also hoping, though, there would be more depth to the ending of this movie. Again, more to say on what I mean by that when I start posting spoiler videos. But I just kept waiting for like a final twist at the end. Like, I kept thinking that there's going to be something else coming. I just kept waiting for it. And so while there are some scenes now in the finale that are epic scenes, epic scenes, I do just wish the ending reveal would have had some additional depth to the storyline. So more to come on that, where I can really open up and explain what I mean. But that's all I'm going to say about that for now. Now, regarding Easter eggs, there are some great Easter eggs in this movie. And as much as I want to share them with you, there's like a couple I really love to share that just would take away from your first time viewing experience. And if you're reading this review, it's a non-spoiler review, so I'm not going to drop spoilers into it now. And I've tried really hard to not give spoilers or ruin any surprises in this review. And it's not been easy to do. So I don't want to ruin any Easter eggs for you either in here, and just let it all be a surprise. However, I will be talking spoilers later this week, so stay tuned if you're ready to talk spoilers at that time. So my final analysis of Scream 5, otherwise known as Scream 2022, is that overall, I think it's a very strong entry into the franchise. This is most definitely a requel, which Mandy so brilliantly explained in the movie. And because it is not a traditional sequel, this Scream film is unlike any other Scream film. It's very different. This movie has the difficult challenge of merging the past with a new direction for the future, which features new characters that will be the focal point moving forward. And while it was great to see Legacy cast kicking some Ghostface tail, the way this movie ends really serves as the final exclamation point that this is a new Scream film. And the franchise is now moving forward from the Sidney Prescott story. So in closing, I think Radio Silence was given a monumental task of taking an iconic horror franchise that was previously helmed by a legendary director in Wes Craven, and to make a movie that carefully respected and honored the previous 4 films and Wes's legacy, while also taking the franchise in a new direction with new characters and a new final girl, and kind of restarting and recreating something new, and doing it in a way though that makes it feel like it's a Scream film, but also that it feels something brand new. Feels like it's something all brand new as well. So all things considered, I believe that Radio Silence managed to pull that off very well, and I think that they overall did a good job. I think they did a great job even making this movie, and I do hope that they get a green light to make Scream 6. So I'm just going to be waiting to see over the next few weeks if we get that announcement. So, all right, guys. Well, listen, that's really going to be it for this update. I want to know what you guys think of the movie. If you have seen it, I want to hear your thoughts on the film. Any thoughts on my spoiler-free review of the film? Leave your comments below, and let's begin to talk about the movie right now. And guys, this is it. I'll be back soon, though, with more Scream and other horror movie content. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, this is Craven Something Scary, where it's all horror all the time. Thank you for watching.